It's September 28th, 2020, and it's time to review 5 of the most outrageous, infuriating, or just plain baffling things that have happened lately. It's your Facepalm 5. Let's count them up. Number one, hey, there's the music. Number one, Senate Republicans decide actually it's totally fine to fill a Supreme Court vacancy during an election year. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Facepalm 5. Let's get started with number one. So, as we all know, and as we talked about actually during my last Ask Away live stream when the news broke a little over a week ago, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. And this would have been bad news regardless of the circumstances. Justice Ginsburg was an icon, one of the most consequential jurists in recent American history, if not, all of American history. But her death and the vacancy it leaves on the highest court in the United States are especially worrying right now because it's the president's job to appoint Supreme Court justices. And well, And by the way, I do think it's important to acknowledge that Justice Ginsburg could have chosen to retire several years ago, like when President Obama was still in office, but didn't. But I also think it's important for me to say that I don't think any of this is her fault. Would it have been nice had she retired at a time when it was guaranteed her successor wouldn't be some throwback right-wing cult member? Yeah. That would have been nice. But this is not her responsibility, or at least not her responsibility alone. People who voted for Donald Trump to be the president, people who could have voted for Hillary Clinton and stopped Donald Trump from being president, but didn't. This is their fault, not RBG's fault. That's my 2 cents. That and the rest of this video. So remember when Antonin Scalia died? That was nice. Remember how good it felt? Knowing he was dead? Maybe that was just me, but I don't think it was. Scalia died in February 2016, 8 months before the presidential election. But instead of allowing President Obama to appoint his successor, the Republicans who controlled the U.S. Senate said, whoa, hold on. We can't let the president install a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court in the last year of his term. We've got an election coming up. The American people deserve to have a say in this. So when President Obama nominated Merrick Garland to fill Scalia's Supreme Court seat, the Republicans in the Senate, led by Mitch McConnell, just kind of ignored it because they felt very strongly, as a matter of principle, that whoever won the presidential election that year should have the right to make that nomination. Anyway, after Justice Ginsburg died, they changed their minds. And the Republicans of the Senate have offered all sorts of reasons why they aren't shameless hypocrites for blocking an appointment by a Democratic president before the last election, but allowing an appointment by a Republican president to be considered a little over a month before the next one. They aren't good reasons, but let's talk about a few of them anyway. Majority Leader McConnell says that this situation is not the same as the situation back in 2016 because back then different parties controlled the White House and the Senate. This time, there's both a Republican president and a Republican Senate majority, which means that Mitch only thinks the American people deserve a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice when he thinks he's got a shot at blocking a Democrat from making the selection. Rules are for Democrats, remember. Republicans can do whatever they want. Lindsey Graham, who back in 2016 said that if there is a Republican president and a Supreme Court vacancy occurs in the final year of their term, the winner of the next presidential election should nominate a justice to fill that seat. And he even went on to say, use my words against me if something like this were to happen. And Lindsey has argued that it's fair for Republicans to try and confirm a Trump Supreme Court nominee before the election this time because basically the Democrats started it. They changed the procedures to allow a simple majority to approve court appointments in 2013, and they, quote, chose to try to destroy Brett Kavanaugh's life during his confirmation process. Of course, The Democrats only felt it was necessary to change the procedures because the Republicans were blocking President Obama's nominations to the federal bench, and nobody did anything to Brett Kavanaugh that he didn't have coming because of the fact that he was credibly accused of fucking rape. Fuck Brett Kavanaugh and fuck Lindsey Graham and the rest of the Republicans for protecting him. The third excuse offered by Ted Cruz is that, hey, this might be a close election. And if it goes to court, we can't have an 8-person Supreme Court. What if the justices vote on a decision and it's a 4-4 tie? That would trigger a constitutional crisis. Except no, it wouldn't. If the Supreme Court couldn't reach a decision, then the decision of the lower court would stand, just like it does any other time the Supreme Court can't make a decision or decides not to hear a particular case for whatever reason. So those are some of the reasons, but the real reason the Republicans have flip-flopped on this is that they have no principles and they're doing whatever they want that they have the power to do because that's what they do. Let me make this clear. Legally, constitutionally, President Trump has every right to appoint someone to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat, just as President Obama had every right to fill Scalia's seat. It's the hypocrisy being shown by Republican senators that makes this wrong. That and the fucking embarrassment of a third Supreme Court justice being selected by the worst president in the history of the country. And speaking of that selection, let's go ahead and talk about why, number 2, Trump's nominee to replace Ginsburg is the worst. Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who currently sits on the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, is Trump's pick for the vacant Supreme Court seat. And what do we know about Judge Barrett? We know she clerked for the wonderfully dead Antonin Scalia, but, when he was alive. We know she taught at Notre Dame Law School, and we know she's a member of a Catholic-ish cult where traditional gender roles are reinforced and women are required to submit to the spiritual authority of their husbands. The expectation of unquestioning obedience to authority is one of the definitive hallmarks of a cult. That's what she was in. Plus, bonus, she's anti-abortion, anti-immigration, and has criticized past court rulings that defined the right to same-sex marriage and upheld the Affordable Care Act. In other words, she's exactly the sort of heartless, obsolete originalist that conservatives love because they know they can rely on her to use her position to fuck over the right people, the people they think deserve to be hurt. Right after Barrett's name started coming up as the front runner for the nomination, it was reported that the cult she's a member of was the inspiration for Gilead in The Handmaid's Tale. That's not actually true, it turns out. People of Praise, the cult to which Barrett belongs, was not the inspiration for The Handmaid's Tale, but it did once have a religious office called a handmaid, which was the highest rank within the church that a woman could attain. According to Margaret Atwood, parts of The Handmaid's Tale were actually inspired by a group called People of Hope, which is another Catholic-ish cult where people are called handmaids. So you can see how some folks might make that mistake. Hey, maybe we just shouldn't nominate people who belong to cults to be judges. I don't know. I realize that the Republicans in Congress don't agree with me there, but hey, I don't mind. In fact, I get it. They're sympathetic to cult members because, being unquestioningly, obsequiously obedient to Donald Trump, they all belong to at least one cult themselves. They're so protective of Barrett that when people have expressed concerns over how extreme her religious views seem to be, Republicans have fired back that those people are just anti-Catholic bigots. That's what Republican Senator Ben Sassa said. Vice President Mike Pence said something similar, accusing people who raised questions about Barrett's religious views of displaying religious intolerance. Yeah, everybody knows that Democrats hate religion, especially Christianity, and most especially Catholicism. That's why they nominated as their presidential candidate, arguably the most high-profile Catholic politician in the country. Or did they? According to President Trump, Joe Biden would, quote, hurt the Bible and hurt God if elected. How's he going to hurt God? Is Biden that powerful? Is that why they fear him? There's also a conservative Catholic group called Catholic Vote that has launched a massive ad campaign in several battleground states, accusing Biden of being an existential threat to the Catholic Church. So when they attack Joe Biden's religion, it's totally fair. But when people point out that Amy Coney Barrett belongs to a misogynistic cult, that's religious bigotry. Okay. Because Republicans only pretend to have principles, but don't actually give a fuck. And hey, as long as we're talking about things that people pretend are important to them, that they obviously don't give a shit about, let's talk about number 3, grand jury charges officer involved in killing of Brianna Taylor, only not really. After months and months of protests and social media campaigns angrily demanding the arrests of the police officers who killed Brianna Taylor in her home in Louisville, Kentucky back in March, a grand jury finally indicted the people responsible. Well, one of the people. And he wasn't actually charged with anything directly related to the killing of Brianna Taylor. Former Louisville police officer Brett Hankison, one of the 3 cops involved in the death of Taylor, was charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment, which is defined in a relatively obscure statute of Commonwealth law as not fucking murder. The other 2 officers involved in Taylor's killing, Jonathan Mattingly and Miles Cosgrove, were not charged with anything, despite the fact that, according to the Washington Post, FBI analysis suggests that it was Cosgrove who actually fired the bullet that killed Brianna Taylor. So, just to recap, 6 months after police shot and killed Brianna Taylor in her own home during a botched attempt to serve a warrant, one of the 3 cops involved has been charged with a crime not directly related to her death, and the other 2 cops, including the one who probably fired the shot that killed her, have not been charged with anything. And according to the Attorney General of Kentucky, they probably won't be. Because apparently, when 3 cops knock on someone's door, don't announce themselves as cops, according to multiple accounts from neighbors, get shot at once because someone in the apartment thinks they're breaking in, and respond to that one shot with a total of 32 shots of their own, one of which kills somebody else, that's what you call justifiable. Ben Crump, an attorney representing Brianna Taylor's family, called the indictment outrageous and offensive and tweeted, quote, "If Brett Hankison's behavior was wanton endangerment to people in neighboring apartments, then it should have been wanton endangerment in Brianna Taylor's apartment too. In fact, it should have been ruled wanton murder." You know, if you hear me talking about this, or you've been following this story for the past several months, and you want to do something, there are a few options I would recommend. First, you can donate to the Louisville Community Bail Fund, which is providing bail assistance and post-release support to people arrested while protesting the murder of Brianna Taylor, as they have been doing in Louisville for months. And those protests have been re-energized and renewed in the wake of this bullshit indictment. You can donate to the Louisville Community Bail Fund to support those folks. And you can also go to the website justiceforbrianna.org, which lists several actions you can take, including contacting city officials to demand police reform and an end to no-knock warrants in Louisville. And the links to those things are in the video description. Number 4, Pentagon redirected pandemic response funds to defense contractors. Last week, the number of American deaths attributed to the coronavirus pandemic surpassed 200,000. Back in March, Congress sent the Pentagon $1 billion to, quote, prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus. However, within a few weeks of receiving the money, the Pentagon, according to the Washington Post, was spending it to buy things like jet engine parts, body armor, and dress uniforms, because the plan was to bomb the coronavirus from a jet, send armored ground troops in to finish it off, and then make sure they all look their best at its funeral, I guess. What makes the fact that the Defense Department took $1 billion of coronavirus relief money and apparently just spent the money on whatever the hell it wanted to even worse is the fact that other places are still in desperate need of additional funding to effectively respond to the ongoing pandemic. For example, many hospitals across the country are still requiring medical staff to reuse items of personal protective equipment, such as N95 masks, that were designed to be disposable after a single use, because there just aren't enough of them. There are places that actually need the money that the Pentagon was given for coronavirus relief and wasted, in other words. According to the Washington Post article, quote, DOD officials contend that they have sought to strike a balance between boosting American medical production and supporting the defense industry. But the thing is, the money wasn't for supporting the defense industry. It was to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus. So maybe if you were buying respirators or masks or, I don't know, fucking hand sanitizer from these defense contractors, it might be all right. But you weren't doing that, were you? The Pentagon. You were buying jet parts and body armor and uniforms, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, sounds like the kind of shit you buy from defense contractors any other fucking time. And by the way, some of the defense contractors who received portions of this $1 billion coronavirus funding also got money earlier this year from the Paycheck Protection Program, which was created to help small businesses cover their payroll costs during the pandemic. The American defense industry generates hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue a year. It's just, I can't. Why? And now it's time for the segment devoted to some of the other things Donald Trump has done recently to disgrace the presidency and embarrass and/or endanger the United States and the rest of the world. It's number 5, the further misadventures of Lord Dampnut. Please keep in mind, as always, the following is not a complete list. So, week before last, he participated in a televised ABC News town hall event where he insisted, again, that the reason the United States has so many COVID-19 cases is because we do more testing. That's not the reason. He also attempted to deflect criticism of his weak at best encouraging of people to wear masks to protect against coronavirus infection by saying that Dr. Fauci and the CDC told people not to wear masks, ignoring the fact that the CDC has been recommending that everyone wear masks in public wherever social distancing isn't possible since April. Lied about Joe Biden writing a letter apologizing for calling Trump xenophobic. There's no record of such a letter. Accused Democrats of planning to eliminate health coverage protections for people with pre-existing conditions when it's his own administration that has repeatedly sought to eliminate the Affordable Care Act with no plan to replace it, despite Trump repeatedly promising that he's just a few weeks away from announcing such a plan, a promise he repeated during the town hall, and accused Joe Biden of planning to, quote, raise everybody's taxes when Biden's plan actually calls for raising taxes on people who make over $400,000 a year. Though, to be fair, if you make less than that, you don't qualify under the Trump/Republican definition of everybody anyway. He announced the creation of the 1776 Commission, which will be tasked with promoting quote-unquote patriotic education, which is totally something a normal Democratic non-fascist leader would do. Trump repeated his attacks on the 1619 Project, a Pulitzer Prize-winning series of essays examining the legacy of slavery in the United States. Trump calls the 1619 Project, quote, ideological poison, which might sound a bit outlandish, but keep in mind that Trump is a white supremacist. He accused Joe Biden, not for the first time, of using drugs to improve his debate performance, tweeting, quote, I will be strongly demanding a drug test of sleepy Joe Biden prior to or after the debate on Tuesday night. Naturally, I will agree to take one also. His debate performances have been record-setting uneven, to put it mildly. Only drugs could have caused this discrepancy? I mean, is he asking? Because the answer is no. Not only drugs could have caused this discrepancy. Trump has pointed to Biden's underwhelming performances in earlier primary debates, contrasted with his relatively strong performance in a one-on-one debate with Bernie Sanders later in the year, as evidence that Biden is juicing. But maybe the reason Biden did better in the debate with Bernie was because he was debating one other person instead of a whole stage full of candidates. Or maybe he, practiced. And what kind of drugs is Biden supposedly taking? Anyway, does Trump think there's a real-life version of the pill from Limitless or something? Or does he think those brain supplements that are always being hawked on meathead podcasts actually work? I know Trump watches InfoWars, so he probably saw Alex Jones trying to con people into buying some of his Brain Force snake oil and thought, oh yeah, Biden must be taking that. Why the hell would anyone need to juice to prepare for a debate with Donald Trump anyway? That's like an adult hitting the gym hard for 6 weeks to get ready for a game of keep away with a 2-year-old. According to a new report by the New York Times, Trump lost far more money than he earned during the last 15 years. As a result, he paid a total of only $1,500 in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017 combined, and paid no federal income tax at all in 10 of the last 15 years. The report also finds that Trump has over $300 million in loans that will come due in the next 4 years. And by the way, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, sure, that makes Trump look bad, but it's only one side of the story, what about Joe Biden's tax returns? Joe Biden's tax returns and financial disclosures for the last 5 years are on his website. And finally, last week during a press conference, Trump refused to commit to a peaceful transfer of power should he lose the election. Instead, he repeated his baseless, paranoid claims that mail-in ballots are fraudulent and said, quote, we're going to have to see what happens. In other words, it's the same thing he said last time. If he wins, he'll accept the result. If he loses, it's a hoax. So, obviously, what needs to happen on November 3rd is for Trump to not merely lose, but to lose in epic, historic fashion. He needs not merely to lose, but to, as James Carville said recently, get his ass beat. And in order for that to happen, all of us here in the United States who are able to vote have got to vote on Election Day or before, if you plan to vote by mail. And make sure you check the requirements in your location to see when you need to receive your mail-in ballot and when you need to have it postmarked. Because I am asking you, and not for the first time and not for the last time, to do that, to vote for Joe Biden. And to vote for Democrats all the way down the ticket. Vote to take back the White House. Vote to hold and increase the majority in the House. Vote to take back the Senate. I'm sure by now there are people in the live chat going, voting's not enough. And you're right. It's not enough. We need to do more than vote. Like some of the things I mentioned above or mentioned in previous videos. And check the links in the description. But we need to vote. We need to do the other stuff too, but we need to vote. So vote by mail. Vote in person on Election Day if you can do it safely. Help your family and friends to vote. But however you do it, do it. Think about it. Plan for it. Get your plans for participating in this election squared away now and vote. Because if there is a big enough tide coming to sweep this motherfucker out of office, not even Trump will be able to resist it. So let's make that happen. And now, a little thing I started last time. Before we wrap up the official portion of the show, because this is the Facepalm 5 and the news is therefore always bad, here's one last thing. And it's the feel-good fix. And the feel-good fix this time is this. Joe Biden is kinda, sorta, inching to the left. There's an op-ed piece in the Washington Post that was actually published a few months ago that I read recently that describes how Biden, while maintaining his image as a moderate, has begun to slide ever so slightly to the left since securing the Democratic nomination. I've mentioned this before, but since this is the good news bit, and since I've just got done yelling at you all to go vote for Biden, and since I know some of you still aren't that enthusiastic about doing that, I think it bears repeating. Joe Biden in 2020 is not Joe Biden from 1972. Or Joe Biden from 1988, or 1992, or 2008, or whenever he did the thing you're mad at him for doing. His positions have evolved. He has shown the capacity for growth and change throughout his career and even during this campaign. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If he governs according to the agenda on his campaign website, he will be the most progressive president in my lifetime. The most progressive president since FDR, even. Has he embraced everything I wish he would? Fuck no. I wish he would go all in on the Green New Deal and Medicare for all. I wish he would be less equivocating on issues related to police reform. But judged solely on his proposed policies, he is not a bad candidate. And he has shown that he can be moved in the right direction. So vote for him. God damn it. Well, stay tuned for the post show in just a minute, everybody. But for now, that's 5. Speak out, act out, resist, look after each other. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to the post show. I want to acknowledge because I was kind of keeping an eye on the live chat just out of the corner of my eye as I was going through that, but I didn't want to pause and say anything because I wanted to get through the official part of the show. But I do want to acknowledge. I got a couple of super chats during that portion of the show, and I want to say thank you very much to Caleb Horn, who says, what the hell is going on? I wish I could go back to the days when I didn't really care about politics. Now every day I see what is going on. It stresses me the hell out. However this turns out, if good, few, if bad, emergency plan to move to Canada. So thank you, Caleb, for the super chat and for those comments. Also got a super chat from Caroline Clark. Thank you so much, Caroline, who says, Steve, I've never lost faith in my country before. I think I have now. Will Lord Dampnut ever be punished for being the empty scrotum sack he is? It just doesn't seem fair if you're not a millionaire or billionaire. Well, it's not. It's not fair if you're not a millionaire or billionaire. And will he ever be punished? I don't know. I'm at the point right now where I just want him out of office. Like, I'll worry. We can worry about whether he gets punished. Just get him out. Get him out of office. And then, yes, it would be great if he could be prosecuted, if he could spend the rest of his life, however many years he has left, probably not that many, in prison. That would be fantastic. Do I think that'll happen? Probably not. Do I wish it would happen? Yeah. Yeah, and then also a super chat from Nate Olson with no message, just the super chat. So thank you very much, Nate, as well. And speaking of people who give me money, I also want to acknowledge, before I get too far into this, the folks who have become Patreon. Oh, I just got a new super chat from Vovacat. Thank you very much, my friend. And it says, "Hey Steve, I've heard the news. The governor of California announced a ban on selling gas cars after 2035. Good news. Who is this guy? Don't know him. The governor of California, that would be Gavin Newsom. He is sort of a rising political figure here in the United States, and yeah, I think that is a good thing. I think that is a good thing. Absolutely. We're going to have to move off fossil fuels at some point, and I think it's completely appropriate for the government to start nudging us in that direction, because clearly industry is not going to do it all by itself. So yes, I think we can probably quibble over details, but I think the general idea of that is a very good thing. So now let me acknowledge some of my newest Patreon patrons. These are folks who have become my patron since the last time I did a Facepalm 5. And their names are Sasha Weiss. Thank you, Sasha. Jared Trich. Thank you, Jared. Disco Shootout. Thank you, Disco Shootout. Chris Peace. Thank you, Chris. Angus Bjarnason. Thank you, Angus. Adam Goss. Thank you, Adam. Brian Brady. Thank you, Brian. Mike H. Thank you, Mike. Ingemar Bjarni Sverrisson. Thank you, Ingemar. And Cassie Volpine. Thank you, Cassie. Thanks to everybody who has become my patron recently. Thanks to all of you who are my patrons at whatever level you are pledging, however long you have been pledging. I appreciate it so much. And just a reminder to everybody, if you like the work that I do here on this YouTube channel and you want to support my channel, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Steve Shives, and pledges of $5 a month or more earn you a shout out at the end of the Facepalm 5 and also at the end of a Trek Actually video. But pledges of any amount are greatly appreciated. Less than $5 a month, more than $5 a month, whatever you can afford, whatever you think I'm worth. I appreciate it so much. I could not do this without you. And just a reminder that Patreon also gives you the option now that you can pay for an entire year's worth of pledges ahead of time if you want, if you'd rather do it that way instead of doing it month by month. So that's completely up to you, but the option is there. And I just like to mention that in case, that entices you to just give me a bunch of money, which I think would be great. All right. So now let's, did I miss one? Somebody said I missed one in the patron shout outs. Did I? I don't think I did. Sasha Weiss, Jared Trich, Disco Shootout. I'm going to do them again. Fuck it. Chris Peace, Angus Bjarnason. Yeah. Sean Ferguson. Did I miss? I don't know. Adam Goss. Did I miss Sean the first time? Brian Brady. Mike H. Ingemar Bjarni Sverrisson. What a fun name to say. And Cassie Volpine. So if I missed one the first time, I definitely got it that time. Thank you for pointing that out just in case. Anyway, yeah. So let's talk. Let's hang out in the live chat for a little while. Let's see how everybody's doing. Is there anything that I didn't mention during the main part of the show that maybe you think I should have, or that warranted mentioning, that just didn't make the final cut that you want to talk about here? Anybody have any questions? Whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about for maybe like the rest of the hour, let's say. Because like the Ashley, okay, I missed Sean. Sorry, Sean. I didn't mean to pass you over the first time. And thank you for pointing that out to me, so I could go back and say it again. I appreciate it. Joe McClory says, "Did you paint the wall to better show off the button?" No, actually, you can't see it because of the low light, but it's not paint. It's actually it's an acoustic curtain. You can see how it shakes a little bit there. That it's a sound dampening curtain that I have on this wall and then on this wall behind my monitor. Because as eagle-eyed viewers have noticed, I'm in a different room now than I used to be. So yeah, this is just an acoustic curtain, and I got my plaque hung up because I like to show it off because I'm an egomaniac and it's my only tangible accomplishment. Dana says, questions. Oh boy, do we have questions. I know everybody has so many questions. Duralta Trekkie says, I'm on page 296 of my Star Trek book /fanfic. Just wanted to say that. Good for you. Crystal Hickerson says you do the chair adjusting thing that I do when I'm doing podcasts. What is that like? Like spinning in the chair like that? Is that what you mean? Like the chair adjusting thing? Isaiah Taylor says this is the battle of late Gulf of elections. That is, that's a reference I don't get. Is that a historical reference, or is that like a reference to a book I haven't read? Caroline Clark with another super chat says, "Steve, you're our best entertainment value." Oh, thank you. I hope even for a show like this where I'm mostly talking about bad news, I hope it is at least entertaining. I hope even if the news itself is soul crushing, at least you're not like you're sorry that the news is happening, but you're not sorry that you watched the video. Hopefully, like if that's the tightrope I can walk here, then that's good. By the way, speaking of these videos, okay, the sitting upright like that, that and that. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of the Facepalm 5, I do want to let everybody know. Because I promised to do this. I'm very soon going to be ending the Facepalm 5 completely. I'm just going to stop doing it. I am going to replace it with another show. I'm going to replace it with a series where I will be having guests on the channel and interviewing people. And it'll probably mostly be one-on-one interviews where we'll just stream together, have an interview for an hour, and talk about, we could talk about, things that are happening in the news, or talk about a topic that the person wants to talk about. But I'm gonna transition into more something like that, and that'll probably be a weekly live stream instead of every other week. I'm going to start doing that because honestly, I've been doing some version of this show. First, it was 5 stupid things, and then I changed it because of that word. And then it was 5 things, and then it was never 5 things. It went straight from being 5 stupid things to being the Facepalm 5. But I've been doing some version of like the current events version of this show for a long time, and I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. Writing and preparing this show is so emotionally exhausting. Like it is just fucking brutal. And actually doing it is so much fun and so cathartic. Even if the stories are like really dark and depressing, like it feels good to do the show. But preparing the show, writing it, doing the research is just, it's really starting to get to me. So I decided yesterday, actually. I've toyed with this for months, and I kind of went back and forth, and I finally decided yesterday, after talking it over with somebody, to just say, it's time to stop doing this. So, earthquake, check it out. Earthquake. I'm sorry, friends in California, I shouldn't do that. That's in poor taste. So I'm going to do 2 more of these, and that will take us up to the election, because it's every 2 weeks, and the election is that close. That's why it's important to start thinking about how you're going to vote. But I'm going to do 2 more editions of the Facepalm 5, and then after the election, I might take a little break from doing like a live stream on Monday, or I might go right into the new show. I'm not sure. I have some ideas for who I want some of my guests to be that I think would be open to it, but I haven't actually reached out to anybody yet, because I just thought of this like yesterday. I didn't think of it all by myself, but the idea was pitched yesterday. So Dana, I'm not always in poor taste. That's not true. That's a very unkind thing to say, and it hurts my feelings that you would say that. So between now and the election, 2 more episodes of the Facepalm 5, and then that's it. Not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do a new show, a different show with other people that will hopefully be easier on me psychologically and fun and hopefully entertaining and hopefully something that you'll want to watch and enjoy as well. So there you go. I'm picking up a couple of more super chats while I'm running my yap here that I want to acknowledge. Corey Honkanen says, couldn't agree with Caroline Clark more. Never been a patron before, but I get so much out of your channel. I couldn't not support you, Steve. Well, thank you very much, Corey. That means so much to me. And then also one from Mark Gummerson, who says, hi, Steve. Do you have any superheroes that are less known but hold a special place in your heart? For example, I'm a sucker for Captain Atom. I mean, until recently, Dana, that's just not true. Race Carlock, get Vosh on the show at some point. No. Until recently, I would have said Shazam, or the DC/Fawcett version of Captain Marvel, because he was relative. I mean, he was still really well known, but relatively lesser known than like Superman and Batman and stuff. But now, because of the Shazam movie, and I mean, that character is much more widely known than he was even 5, 10, 15 years ago. So I don't know if I can really say that. But no, I can't really think of like a really obscure superhero, you know, that I really really like. That, at least not one that pops into my mind. Yes, Random Geek, I will be open to be a guest on your show because I'm egotistical too. Oh yeah, Jesse. Yeah, you're right. Jesse says writing videos on gender and politics often takes my entire energy for it. Yeah, it's just it's like I said, doing the video is great. Like when I get to the point where the script is done and I know the last thing I have to do is to just sit here in front of the camera and do the video for you, that's great. But it's everything up to that point that is just, it's like pulling teeth. It's just like, I mean, I have to force myself to do it. And that's just not, like I don't have to force myself to write a Star Trek video. I don't have to force myself to do an Ask Away. I don't have to force myself to write a Steven Stuffy or a Whirlpool. Like those are fun. Those are, and I can still use those to talk about like important things and things that are relevant and that matter to me and that matter to the world. But doing the Facepalm 5 has just become such a fucking grind emotionally that I'm gonna end it. So I thank you for being understanding, everybody in the chat. Radical Bacon, I talked to you too. Yes, Dana, it does depend on if anyone wants to fucking talk to me. Exactly. There are a few people on my wish list for guests where it very much I mean, they're all people I would get along with. I don't want it to be like an argument show, but just people who I'm like, oh boy, if they would actually come on the show, that would be awesome. So there are a few names on the list. Another super chat from Vovocat17 says, suddenly wants to start a YouTube channel to become an important guy and get interviewed by Steve. Have stories to tell. Well, there you go. Everybody's goal now is to start a YouTube channel and become famous enough that I would want to have you on the show. Caroline, tiny superhero, Mighty Mouse. Could he beat up Superman? Might be interesting. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he is tiny, but he is mighty. So yeah. Freakazoid. Hey, there's a lesser known superhero that I love. Everybody remember Freakazoid? The second spinoff from Animaniacs, because they did Animaniacs and then they did Pinky and the Brain. They gave them their own show, and then they did Freakazoid, which was actually my favorite. I loved Freakazoid, but it only ran for like one season. But yeah, I love Freakazoid. I could say that one. I could say that for my superhero. Of course, Jessie remembers Freakazoid. Of course she does. Jesse, I know that I never would want to talk with you. Well, I would never ask you, Jesse. Your name is on the wish list. Oh, God. Okay. Dana, that's a good point. I do write fanfics. And I am unimportant, but not because I write fanfics. I'm unimportant for different reasons that are I would say largely unrelated to the fact that I write fanfic. Largely, not exclusively, but largely. 255 AD says, question, how worried are you about Trump getting GOP states to send faithless electors who will vote for him even if Joe wins? I don't think that's how it would go. I think it would probably be more like a court challenge or something like that. I don't know about the faithless elector thing. I mean, it's possible, but I don't see that being the strategy. Oh, this is a good one from Harry Garrison. I've thought about this. I thought about this today because I watched the main segment from last night's John Oliver show. If the Democrats get a trifecta and control the presidency, the House, and the Senate, are you in favor of them expanding the size of the Supreme Court? That's like really, really tough. That's a very tough question for me because on my initial response would be, yes, absolutely, expand the court, you know. But then you have the problem of, okay, but then, you know, once the Democrats do it, then the Republicans, once the Republicans get power again, if they ever get power again, then they could just expand it more. And, you know, that. But then I think back, but then I flip back to the other side and I think, yeah, but you could say that about anything that they did. You know what I mean? Like, because the other thing I could say is, well, okay, maybe they shouldn't expand the court. Maybe if they got that kind of consolidated power, they could just impeach Trump's justices, because you can impeach Supreme Court justices, right? They could just impeach the 3 justices that Trump appointed, and then the new president, Biden, could appoint new justices, and that would solve the problem too. But then it flips back the other way. Yeah, but once the Democrats do that, then the Republicans could impeach Supreme Court justices they don't like if they ever get that kind of power. So, I mean, I go back and forth. And I honestly am not sure. I am honestly not sure if packing the court would be a good idea or not. It seems like a good idea. It definitely has advantages. It's been done before. The number of justices on the Supreme Court has been expanded in the past. It wasn't always 9. But I'm trepidatious about it. I understand why it sounds like a good idea, but I am trepidatious about it. Some random geek says I should get Nick on this. Yeah, Nick would be really good because we could talk about comics. He could talk about Planet Ripple. I should add Nick to the list. Oh, Caroline says intellectually superior, Bizarro, Superman, or Hulk. I guess it would depend on which version of the Hulk, but I would say Bizarro is probably intellectually superior. But again, it depends on which version of the Hulk. Opinions no one cares about says I'd rather shoot for getting rid of the Electoral College. Very good. Yes, absolutely. I agree. And then someone else had something further down too. Blue Tree 0502. What about term limits? 100% in support of term limits. I am 100% in support of term limits. I think there should be term limits on the Senate and the House. I don't care how. I mean, I tend to favor very draconian term limits, especially for the House, so that there's a lot of turnover. You know, so that there are constantly new people going in and coming out. I think that would be a really good thing. But yeah, I'm hugely in favor of term limits. Super chat from Crudbutts, who says, here's $10. It's not much, but spreading the wealth alleviates my utter despair. Well, thank you for your contribution, my friend. And I'm glad that I can do something to alleviate your utter despair. I'm very sorry to hear that you are despairing. 255 AD says, I think even if Joe wins, it'll take a few really bad rulings to get him on board with court packing. Agree or disagree? No, I agree with that. I don't think Biden, I think court packing is one of those things. And I think Biden has spoken publicly about it when asked that he doesn't support that. And that doesn't surprise me because, you know, Biden is in many ways is a very moderate, you know, in terms of his, I've said before, I said in this show, in terms of his proposed policies, he is very progressive. In terms of his approach to governance, I think he's much more moderate. He's very moderate. And so I don't think he would be the kind of person to say, yes, we should pack the court. Like, he's not someone who wants to rock the boat like that. So I agree with you. I agree with you that it would take some doing to get him on board with a plan to expand the court. Dana asks, what should the limit be? I mean, I would say one term for everything, but like I said, I'm extremely draconian in that way. Maybe 2 terms for everything, or maybe what about this? We got 2 terms for the president, so that's a maximum of 8 years. Let's do 2 terms for the Senate. That's a maximum of 12 years because the Senate is supposedly the more deliberative body. And let's do maybe 5 terms for Congress so they can serve a maximum of 10 years. So the president can serve 8, Congress can serve a maximum of 10, and the Senate can serve a maximum of 12. Maybe those can be the term limits. Does that sound? I mean, that sounds reasonable, I guess. It's certainly better than no term limits at all for Senate or the House. But yeah, I would love it if it was just one limit, one term for everything, including the president. 255 AD says, what about packing the court and then ramming through Puerto Rico statehood? That could keep the GOP out of power permanently unless they drastically change. I'm in favor of Puerto Rican statehood if the people of Puerto Rico want it anyway. Like, I think that's just the fair thing to do. Statehood for Puerto Rico, statehood for Washington, D.C. I support both of those, whether we pack the court or not, or whether, we're trying to thwart Republicans destroying the country or not. I just think I support it just in general. So yeah, I think it's a very good thing. Pedro Noguera says, do you have a favorite? Yes. Okay. Yes. Technically, you're right, Dana. It's the House, not Congress, even though they call members of the House Congress people or congressmen or congresswomen. You're right. It's the House of Representatives, not Congress. Although that's confusing how that term is used sometimes. You're right. Anyway, Pedro says, do you have a favorite sci-fi author or favorite horror author? Please skip Stephen King. Ooh, sorry, Stephen. Not a fan of Stephen King, I guess. Or maybe it's just that he's so popular. You're saying skip Stephen King because he's the automatic answer for a lot of people. Richard Matheson. I love Richard Matheson, who, of course, not only wrote I Am Legend, but was also one of the great writers on The Twilight Zone. I would say second only to Serling himself. Some people might say Charles Beaumont was the number 2 guy on the Twilight Zone writing staff. Personally, I say Richard Matheson. I think Richard Matheson was fantastic and wrote one of my favorite. Actually, I think he might have written both of my favorite Twilight Zones. I know he wrote. I'm pretty, or at least let me see. He wrote one of them at least. I'm going to look that shit up. Yes, he wrote Nick of Time, which is the episode with William Shatner and the little napkin holder that he thinks is predicting the future. And Matheson wrote that, and let me see. He did not write A Game of Pool. George Clayton Johnson wrote A Game of Pool. George Clayton Johnson, another one of the great writers on the Twilight Zone. But yeah, Matheson wrote Nick of Time, and so I mean, I'm talking about I'm going more into his teleplays than his prose, but I love Richard Matheson a lot. Dana asks, markers or crayons? I think I would say crayons. There's a little boy inside of me that remembers coloring with crayons. I think I would say crayons. I don't know though. I mean, markers have certain advantages as well. You get a more even color with markers. It's tough. It's very tough. Crayons are more fun though. I don't know. I think I would say crayons. Serena Geek also says, what about independence for Puerto Rico? If that's what they want. Yeah, I said statehood. If the people of Puerto Rico want statehood, then that's what they should have. If they would rather be independent, I mean, yeah, that's a different thing. Super chat from Caleb Horn, who says, in other news, brain-eating amoebas found in the drinking water relatively close to where I live. Headline popped up when I thought about what 2020 has next in store for us down here. Damn you, 2020. Jesus Christ. Brain-eating amoebas. 255 AD says, do you really think Biden is more progressive than LBJ? I don't know if he is or not, but I on paper, according to his agenda, I think that taken as a whole, I think that agenda is more progressive than what LBJ was able to do. Yes. Not to take anything away from LBJ's legislative accomplishments, because we have to, LBJ, the Great Society, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the War on Poverty. Medicaid, that was LBG, right? Medicaid, LBJ, that was, Medicaid. There are major accomplishments from LBJ. But I think if you look at all of what Biden has on his website of what he wants to do, I think that is I do think that's a more progressive. That's the road. I'll put it this way: it's the roadmap to being a more progressive president than LBJ. Yes. Oh, Deralta Trekkie says, did you read the Star Trek books by William Shatner? Not all of them, but some of them, and they are fucking bonkers, and I love them. Yes. They would fall into the so bad it's good category. Absolutely. Dana asks, no holds barred, any living guest, who would your top pick be? Well, Barack Obama, of course. I don't know. That's so tough. Who would any living guest? Who would my top pick be? Is it wrong to say Jonathan Frakes? Is it like I feel like I should say something else, but I feel like my heart is saying Jonathan Frakes. Get Riker on that motherfucker. Frakes, Obama. I don't know. Nico Case. That'd be cool. I don't know. Radical Bacon. Or no, Blue Tree says crayons taste better? 255 AD says, which is less awful, Trump winning the election or Trump losing the election and finding a way to stay in power anyway? Well, yeah, Trump losing and staying in power is worse. I would say, yes. Yes, Dana, Space Dad for the win. His picture, actually, I turned his picture away because somebody told me it was distracting, but his picture is still back here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hang it on the wall back there in the corner, because that is that's the area where I shoot my Star Trek videos now. And so he will be hanging on the wall in the background behind me. So Space Dad will be lurking in the background in upcoming Trek Actually videos. But yeah, Space Dad will be a presence in the Trek videos from now on. Oh, Jemshin says Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, or Andromeda. Watch or wood chipper. I have never seen a single episode of Andromeda, but I remember very fondly Hercules. So I would say watch Hercules and wood chip Andromeda, just because I've never watched Andromeda, so I don't think I would miss it. But Hercules I remember very fondly from when it was on. Super chat from Corey Hankinen. True story. Jonathan Frakes has paid to see me act. Sure, his daughter was in the show and all, but damn it, I'll take it. That is so cool. First of all, it's cool that Jonathan Frakes saw a show you were in, and it's cool that you were in a show with Jonathan Frakes' daughter. That's really cool. Congratulations. I get the feeling it probably happened a while ago, but congratulations. Crystal Hickerson says, it's not distracting, it's creepy in a sexual way. Well, that's Riker for you. 255 AD says, are you still comfortable reading stuff Shatner wrote? Well, I read the Shatner stuff before his assholism became as pronounced as it is now on Twitter, so I don't know if I would buy like a book of his now. But when I read the Shatnerverse novels, it was years and years and years ago before any of that happened. So I don't know if I would be comfortable doing it now. But back then I had no problem with it, and I still think fondly of those books. Yeah. Dana says favorite supervillain. I mean, it's not a very interesting or adventurous pick. It's probably the Joker. I think probably the Joker. Secular Scholar says, if you were a were creature, what animal would it be? I guess a were dog, maybe a were dog. Douglas Sharon says, I'm going to miss the Facepalm 5. Will you miss Trump? Fuck no. Fuck no. When he dies, if they bury him within a reasonable distance of my house, I will go to his grave and take a shit on it every day of my life until they fucking put me in prison for it. Fuck no. Of course I won't miss him. Fuck him. David Colby says, Lower Decks, I want to hear your thoughts on Veritas. I don't remember what Veritas is. I guess it must have gone completely out of my mind because I do not pick up the Veritas reference. Generally speaking, I think Lower Decks has been really good. But I'm sorry. Is it from the most recent episode? Whatever Veritas is, it's completely gone out of my head. Jesse says, my Discord server is currently debating the sexiness of Riker versus Rios. Any thoughts? Oh, man, that's tough. See? Fuck. Sorry. Hey, Space Dad, don't listen to this. He doesn't need to hear this. Going purely on sex appeal, I think I would give it to Rios. Because as much as I love Riker, and as much as I love Frakes, I don't know if sexy is the word I would describe him as. I just don't know if I would say he's sexy. Rios? Fuck. Forget it. And I'm straight. And I'm saying like, oh, fuck, yes, that's a fucking good-looking dude. I think, yeah, purely in terms of sex appeal, I would say Rios, yes. Yeah. So nobody say anything, okay? Nobody let on that that's what I said, okay? Look at you, you sexy man. Yeah. Okay. I don't think he knows. Yeah, there. He's just sort of lurking in the background. Crystal disagrees with me. Nope, Riker Rios is not that sexy. Huh. Okay, it was called, the episode was called Veritas. Sorry, David, yeah. I thought it was good. I completely blanked on the title of the episode. I thought it was a good episode. I think it's a good, I think it's, like I said before, it's been a very good show so far. I've enjoyed it. This is a good compromise from Jesse here. Riker in the streets, Rios in the sheets. Okay, I can follow you. I can follow you that far. Yes. Caroline Clark says Benjamin Sisko is the sexiest. I can't argue with that. Avery Brooks is a fine looking man. There was a panel at a con several years ago where I think it was all of the captains at once on stage. So it was, and I think this might have been pre-Kelvin timeline, or if it was post-Kelvin timeline, Chris Pine wasn't there, but it was Shatner and Patrick Stewart and Avery Brooks and Kate Mulgrew and Scott Bakula. So it was like at the time the five big, series leads, the captains, and someone from the audience asked a question, and I think they said Shatner. They said that Shatner was like the sexiest captain. And as soon as they said it, and Bakula and Avery Brooks were like seated at the end of the row there on the edge of the stage. And as soon as this woman from the audience said Shatner was the sexiest captain, without saying a word, Scott Bakula and Avery Brooks both stood up and walked off stage. It was so hilarious. It was so hilarious. Jemshin says, if you had $70,000 yearly budget to spend on your hair, what would you do with it? I would spend it on anything else that I fucking wanted, because apparently you can do that according to the Pentagon. You can get money for a particular purpose and just spend it on anything the fuck else that you want. So I would take the $70,000 and I would do something else with it. So anyway, it is past the top of the hour. I said I would go till the end of the hour. So if anybody has any final questions they want to ask, or any final topics they want me to discuss before we wrap this up, just get them in now, because I'm going to begin the process of wrapping up the stream and moving on to other things tonight. So first of all, I want to remind everybody once again about... about the Patreon page, patreon.com/Steve Shives, which is where you can go to support my work here on YouTube and allow me to keep doing what I'm doing. I appreciate all my patrons. Also, if you enjoy the YouTube stuff, don't forget that I also co-host a couple of podcasts alongside the brilliant and hilarious Jason Harding, Late Seating, the movie review podcast, and then the Ensign's Log, the Star Trek themed comedy podcast. You can listen to them both at letmelistenpodcasts.com or other places, because the link is in the description to listen to our podcasts, and we love them, and we thank you all for listening to them. Also, I want to acknowledge that the music that you heard at the beginning of the show was a little piece called Proto Funk by Kevin MacLeod, who is the godsend of royalty-free music for YouTubers. Thank you very much to Kevin for the use of the music. And also, don't forget the charity links below. Some Random Geek has been kind enough to compile charity links for many of our friends who need a helping hand. And if you could click the link and check out that charity link, Doc, that would be wonderful. And I would really ask that you would do that. And also, there's links to check if you're an American, to check your voter registration, to help you figure out how you're going to vote in the election, because I really, really want everybody who is able to vote to vote. A couple of super chats coming in here last minute. One from Caleb, who says upcoming episodes should show what the Cerritos' special move is, like saucer sep or variable geometry nacelles. Can't wait to see what it is. Good point. They haven't really established anything like that yet, have they? And then one from Matt Lipschitz, who says they came to town for a con. My friend worked at the Four Seasons and waited on the four of them at a hotel bar. Way better than the $400 meet and greet. I guess, is that referring to the captains, I guess? Yeah, Frakes is looking over my shoulder, Caroline. There he is. There he is. Good job, Dad. Pedro says, just an idea. We'd love to see a Star Trek Enterprise fanfic. I don't know if I've got one of those in me. Maybe, though. I don't know. Oh, and Some Random Geek put the Louisville Bail Fund and the Flint, Michigan Clean Water Fund in the charity links. Good. Thanks. Excellent. Duralta Trekkie says, where could I send my fanfic suggestions for you to read to? I am not taking suggestions. But thank you for the thought. That's it, everybody. I'm going to wrap this up. Don't forget, this Friday is going to be another episode of Ask Away. So those of you who are Patreon patrons, don't forget to, if you want to submit questions, submit your questions between now and the start of the show on Friday. I posted the link earlier today. And don't forget, I'm taking questions in the form of a Google form now. You can't just leave comments. You have to put the question in the Google form. So please do that if you haven't done so already. And I will see you Friday for Ask Away. And I will see you at some point later this week for another Star Trek video that I'm writing right now that will be up hopefully Wednesday, maybe Thursday. But yeah, thank you. The Joker sucks, Dana has declared. I'm dead to Dana. I'm dead to her now. Oh. I'm so sorry. What a terrible note to end the show on. I'm dead to Dana. Well, we'll have to work on that. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you on Friday for a new Ask Away. Take care. Have a good evening. And thanks for watching.